Did you know that your TFSA can be penalized and taxed by the CRA? Let me show you the 3 red flags you need to avoid to stay on the CRA's good side and keep your TFSA truly tax-free. Red flag number 1, turning your TFSA into a business. Now I want you to imagine this. You started your TFSA with $15,000, watching it grow and grow until one day, 3 years later, you're sitting on $617,000. Well, that sounds like the TFSA dream, doesn't it? Well, for Fareed Ahmed, that dream turned into a nightmare when the CRA came knocking. Fareed was an investment advisor who opened his TFSA in 2009. He wasn't just dabbling in buying and holding stocks though, he was diving headfirst into high volume trading, mostly with penny stocks. Fareed's strategy involved flipping stocks at lightning speed, sometimes holding them for just hours or days. Over time, he turned his modest initial contribution into a massive sum worth over $600,000. But here's where things went sideways. The CRA took one look at the nature and frequency of his trades and decided he wasn't just investing anymore. They said that he was running a business inside his TFSA. And when the CRA decides you're running a business, your TFSA stops being tax-free. Instead, Fareed's $617,000 was reclassified as taxable business income. This meant for him hefty tax bills, potential penalties, and a massive headache. Fareed appealed the ruling, but his case has become a cautionary tale for anyone tempted to turn their TFSA into a day trading playground. Why does the CRA care about day trading? Well, day trading is all about quick buys and sells to profit from small price changes. It's fast and risky. But here's the thing, the CRA doesn't see that as the kind of activity a TFSA is meant for. They'll look at your trading patterns, and if you're flipping stocks like a pro trader, especially with short holding periods, expert strategies, or borrowed funds, they might say you're running a business. And the worst part about this is you'll only be on their radar if you're a successful day trader, which most people are not. Once your TFSA is considered a business, every dollar you make is taxable. How to stay on the CRA's good side. The CRA doesn't lay out a crystal clear rule book for what counts as too much trading in your TFSA. There's no magic number of trades per month or a specific dollar amount that sets off alarms. Instead, it's all about using common sense. It's evaluated on a case-by-case basis. That's why it's better to just err on the side of caution and just use common sense. The key is to keep your TFSA looking like a long-term investing and savings vehicle, not a Wall Street trading desk. Stick to investments you plan to hold for a while, like ETFs, blue chip stocks, or even bonds. Avoid flipping stocks too frequently or using leverage. Fareed's story is a wild ride, but it's a reminder the CRA is always watching. Use your TFSA wisely and you'll avoid the kind of drama that turns a $1,617,000 win into a financial cautionary tale. Red flag number 2, overcontribution to your TFSA. Now I want to share maybe the funniest TFSA penalty story that I've ever heard. In 2020, a taxpayer decided to supercharge their TFSA growth by overcontributing $639,308 to it. Yes, you heard that right. And not only that, but they used borrowed funds from a line of credit. Their plan was to invest the excess funds into stocks and watch the profits roll in. But this plan backfired spectacularly when the CRA got involved. Under the Income Tax Act, any overcontribution to a TFSA is hit with a 1% penalty per month on the excess amount. For this taxpayer, that meant a whopping $6,393 in penalties for every month of overcontribution in 2020. And that's not counting the additional penalties and interest that quickly piled up. The taxpayer claimed they didn't understand the rules and even blamed the financial institution for not explaining it to them properly. They pleaded for leniency, citing financial hardship, and also the investment losses in this TFSA of up to 50%. And here's the kicker, they didn't withdraw the excess funds when the CRA told them to. Instead, they held on, hoping the market would recover their massive losses that they incurred with this crazy strategy. There was just so many things that this person did wrong. It's pretty sad, yet kind of funny at the same time. When the case went to federal court, the judge ruled against the taxpayer. The overcontribution wasn't considered a reasonable error, and their delay in removing the funds violated the rule to fix such issues without delay. This case is a hard lesson in knowing the rules before contributing to your TFSA and acting quickly if something goes wrong. I think most people won't make this egregious mistake to this level, but there are many people who overcontribute every year. Non-resident contributions. Now, here's another way overcontribution can sneak up on you, contributing to your TFSA when you're no longer a Canadian resident. Imagine this, you move abroad for work or a new adventure, but you keep contributing to your TFSA, thinking everything's fine. Then out of nowhere, the CRA hits you with the 1% monthly penalty on every dollar you contributed while living outside Canada. For example, meet Jessica. She moved to the US for a new job but kept contributing $6,000 to her TFSA, unaware that non-residents aren't allowed to contribute. The CRA charged her 1% monthly penalty, and because she wasn't in Canada, she didn't catch this mistake for several years, so it equaled to thousands of dollars in penalties over a few years. Here are some common overcontribution gotchas or mistakes to avoid. The first is trusting the CRA's contribution limits that they post online. The CRA's online records aren't always up to date. If you rely on their figures, you could accidentally overcontribute. Keep your own records, whether it's a spreadsheet or a quick note on your phone, to avoid this pitfall. This actually happened to me before. I checked my limit to see if I had any room available, and I actually didn't have much room left, but I ended up overcontributing by a few $1,000s, so I was hit with a penalty for a few months. So it's a very easy mistake to make. Recontributing in the same year. Withdrawing from your TFSA doesn't mean you can recontribute the same amount right away. Contribution room from withdrawals don't reset until the following calendar year. If you jump the gun, you'll face penalties, so always try to wait until January 1st of the next year to withdraw, if you're close to the end of the year. The third gotcha is not transferring investments in kind. When moving investments between accounts, selling them first and redepositing the funds into your TFSA can cause overcontribution problems. Instead, transfer the investments in kind without selling. Even then, be careful with timing to avoid unintentionally reducing your contribution room. Think of your TFSA as a tightly packed suitcase. Adding more than it can hold doesn't just make it burst, it incurs a hefty luggage fee. I go over way more TFSA mistakes to avoid in another video of mine, so be sure to check that out. Red flag number 3, prohibited investments in a TFSA. Your TFSA isn't a free-for-all. It comes with clear restrictions on what you can invest in. Things you can't invest in your TFSA include significant interest holdings, owning 10% or more of a private company's shares. Then you have your non-arm's length relationships, investments in businesses where you or your family have significant control or influence is also banned. The CRA's objective is to prevent individuals from using TFSAs as a tax loophole for personal ventures. By enforcing these rules, the CRA ensures that TFSAs remain tools for legitimate arm's length investments. So penalties for prohibited investments are huge. So be very careful of this. You have a 50% special tax. If your TFSA acquires a prohibited investment, you'll face a tax equal to 50% of the fair market value of the investment at the time it's acquired. Then you'll have 100% tax on income and gains. Any income or capital gains earned from prohibited investments are taxed at 100%, effectively erasing any benefit from holding these investments in your TFSA. The CRA is not messing around with these rules, so be very, very careful of this. Here is a common example. Let's say you invest $10,000 in a private tech startup owned by a relative. If the business grows and your shares are worth $50,000, the CRA could deem the investment prohibited because of your close connection. The result is a 50% tax on the $50,000 value, which is $25,000, and the shares must be removed from your TFSA, meaning future gains are no longer tax-free. And how to stay safe is to consult the CRA's guidelines, review the list of qualified investments provided by the CRA. I provided the list right here for you on the screen for you to pause and review if you want. So because of these steep penalties, make sure you're investing in only things that qualify. Your TFSA is a very powerful wealth building tool, but only if you use it wisely and avoid these red flags. Visit our website to download our TFSA to $1 million guide, and check out our investment management services while you're there if you want something more tailored to your need. Please like this video and subscribe for more tips.